Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 186. Shizun, Shuemeng is so gullible, ha 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 ha. The person who came had a handsome appearance. His eyes were wide open as the lantern illuminated his face. Shuemeng. Chu Wanning was speechless for a moment. He didn't know how much Shuemeng had seen or heard. After a moment of silence, Mo Ran broke the silence first. I have some matters to discuss with Shizun. Shuemeng narrowed his eyes slightly. When he walked over, he vaguely heard low breathing sounds in the woods. He thought it was a pair of disciples who didn't know what was good for them and were having a private meeting at the back of the mountain. Logically speaking, Shuemeng didn't have to do anything when he came across such things. Except for Wuobei Temple and Shangqing Pavilion, none of the 10 major sects prohibited dual cultivations. Although the Shisheng Peak have precept against lasciviousness, it referred to not going to brothels and adulterous relationships. But who was Shuemeng? He was Chu Wanning's disciple, the chief disciple. For so many years, Shuemeng had always treated Chu Wanning's words and actions as his own standards. Since Chu Wanning didn't like to see other people having such clandestine affairs, so Shuemeng followed suit. He also disdained those couples who publicly show their affection and scorned dual cultivation. The back of the mountain was a crucial area where the boundary with the ghost realm was easily damaged. How could anyone be having amorous meeting in such a place? Shuemeng was immediately displeased and came to find the source of the sounds with his lantern. He didn't expect that under the flickering lantern, these two people would be illuminated. Shuemeng was shocked and stupefied. So much so that he failed to properly greet Chu Wanning and instead blurted, "You, why are you doing here?" The barrier in this place was not broken, so it didn't need to be repaired. There were no fragrant herbs or rare flowers, so there was no scenery to speak of. It was located in a remote area, so it was impossible to accidentally wander around here. In a normal situation, if Shuemeng was asked, they were two people who in the middle of the night didn't want to walk on the open road, nor did they want to sit in the beautiful back garden. Instead, they insist on going to a secluded dark place to talk. "Young master, what do you think they were going to talk about?" Shuemeng would definitely laugh coldly and say, "What else can they be talking about in that kind of place? Words of love." If he was asked again, "These two people are both men, they have known each other for a long time, they are both unmarried, their appearance and status are similar, what kind of relationship does young master think they have?" Shuemeng would definitely roll his eyes and say, "What else could it be? It's a cut-sleeve relationship. It's disgusting." At this point, if it was said to him, "Haha, young master's words are incorrect. The fact is these two people are a pair of master and disciple. Young master, please don't be presumptuous." Most likely, Shuemeng would not even wait for that person to finish their sentence before he would be slapping the table in anger and shouting, "Ridiculous! What kind of scandal is this? Which pair of immoral beasts are they? I will immediately expel them from Shisheng Peak and throw them out of the mountain gate." But at this time, if he were to be told that this pair of master and disciple, one was called Mo Weiyu and the other was called Chu Wanning, then Shuemeng would definitely, seriously, totally be stunned. All kinds of strange colors flashed across his face like a revolving lantern. In the end, he held his forehead and sat down, saying, "Then, what I said earlier doesn't count. You, ask that question again and start from the beginning. I feel that there must be a second possibility." That was the case. Shuemeng definitely would not and really could not relate Chu Wanning to any kind of messy, unruly, or unethical matter. So he immediately felt that he had heard wrongly. However, he still felt that his mind was in a mess. He muttered to himself, "What am I supposed to say in this case?" Chu Wanning was just about to open his mouth to explain when Mo Ran lightly pinched his hand under the cover of his wide sleeves, indicating that he should not speak. If this person were to lie, he would not be able to deceive even a 3-year-old child. It was better to do it himself. And so, Mo Ran said, before evening, I found a sweet Osman thus rice cake monster here. Chu Wanning. Xuemeng was dumbfounded. What? A sweet Osman thus rice cake that has cultivated into a spirit. Mo Ran said in all seriousness, it's only about 10 inches tall. It has a lotus leaf on its head and a tail. At the tip of its tail is a burning blue lamp. What kind of monster is this? I've never seen anything like it in the illustrated handbook. Mo Ran laughed. I've never seen it before either, so I was wondering if it was one of the extinct monster that had been released from the Rufeng Sect's Golden Drum Pagoda, which was destroyed some days ago. So I brought Shizun here to take a look. Hearing him say this, Xuemeng immediately let out a sigh of relief. He did not know why, but he felt even more comforted in his heart. His tense face finally regained its liveliness. He walked over with the lantern in hand, looked around and asked, then, have you found that sweet Osman thus rice cake monster? No. Xuemeng glared at him. I'm not asking you, I'm asking Shizun. Chu Wanning said. We didn't find it? Mo Ran laughed. That sweet rice cake probably saw Shizun and was afraid that Shizun would eat it as a dessert, so it immediately hid. Chu Wanning was stunned, then angrily rebuked, Mo Weiyu. Do you want to go to the library to copy books again? After this commotion, Xuemeng's initial uneasiness gradually disappeared. He sighed in his heart. Really, just now, there was actually a moment when he vaguely felt that his Shizun and that dog Mo Ran had some kind of ambiguous relationship. It was really absurd. How could that be possible? His Shizun was the coolest holy water in the world. No one could touch him and no one could taint him. At that moment, Mo Ran asked him, since we've talked so much, how about you? What are you doing here? Xuemeng mumbled, I'm looking for veggie bun for my mother. Mo Ran raised his eyebrows, you mean that fat cat you just picked up? Yes. The orange one with the Wan character on its head, the one that only eats fish and not meat. Yes, have you seen it? Xuemeng sighed, looking very helpless, it's so fat, but it can run very fast. I went to the front mountain up to the back mountain, I went to all the places that people can go, but I didn't even see its shadow. He suddenly thought of something, and suddenly widened his eyes. Ah! Do you think it was eaten by the sweet Osman thus rice cake monster? Mo Ran actually wanted to laugh, but he held it in and coughed lightly. Well, I see that sweet Osman thus rice cake monster is so small. Even though it's a monster, it's useless. If veggie bun meet it, the one who should be worried is not the orange cat, but the sweet rice cake. Xuemeng touched his chin, thought about veggie bun's body size and agreed, yes. You're right. Chu Wanning said, the back mountain is dangerous, don't go any further, I'll help you find it. Xuemeng hurriedly waved his hand, I wouldn't dare to trouble you, Shizun. Chu Wanning said, I have nothing to do at the moment, so I'll help you look for it for a while. After that, I have to go to Loyalty Hall to attend the Elders' Assembly. Mo Ran, come with me, it'll be faster that way. Mo Ran. He really admired Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning probably thought the fire in his body is something he could start and extinguish at will. He actually asked him to stand up and look for the cat at this time. He had not extinguished the fire yet. Xuemeng saw that he was not moving and that his expression was strange. So he asked, what's wrong with you? Mo Ran replied, nothing, I've been feeling a little uncomfortable since just now. You go on ahead, I'll follow you soon. Chu Wanning glanced at him and suddenly realized that Mo Ran's clothes were different from his. Mo Ran was usually wearing the black and gold outfit, which were very tight and suitable for combat. He easily surmised where the problem was. If he did not wear a clock, once the lower part of his body reacted very strongly, the issue would be very obvious. Chu Wanning didn't say anything else. In the darkness, his originally cold face suddenly reddened, as if the sunset had shone on a translucent ice. Extreme cold and extreme warmth merged and dyed his face with sparkling and translucent splendor. From that day on, Chu Wanning was unwilling to have a private meeting with Mo Ran private no matter what at anywhere within Shisheng Peak. Coincidentally, that period of time was also busy. The various sects felt that as long as Su Xuanglin lived, there would be no peace in the cultivation world. They turned to the Tianyan Pavilion, which was a public trial organization independent of the 10 great sects. The organization specialized in investigating difficult cases, but Su Xuanglin was too ruthless and did not leave behind any clues. Thus, Tianyan Pavilion expressed that it was unable to help in this matter. At the end of the month, Li Wuxin could not wait any longer, so he sent out invitations to invite the leaders of the large and small sects, as well as the sect elders, to Lingshan Mountain for a meeting. Chu Wanning and Xue Zhenyang naturally went as well. The last time all the well-known figures of the cultivation world gathered in Lingshan Mountain was when Xue Meng, Nangongxi and the others were competing during the sword discussion conference. In the blink of an eye, the structure of the cultivation world changed dramatically. The seat that originally belonged to the Rufeng sect was now empty. The Huohuang Pavilion was also in a state of collapse. The new sect leader was a stuttering young man who shrunk into the crowd and refused to talk. The masters of the Wuobei temple were very cautious in their words and actions, and did not say a single word to preside over the scandal. Xue Zhenyang recalled the last time when all the heroes gathered together with a harmonious scene. He felt as if it was a lifetime ago, so he could not help but lament deeply. After sitting down, Zhang Shi was elected to the position of foremost sect leader and would be in charge of the investigation of the case with Nangongsu. He was completely different from the former foremost sect leader Nangonglu, who was all smiles. No matter what the situation was, he was always polite and did not like to offend people. What about Zhang Shi? When all the leaders showed the results of the voting and asked him to preside, he was already cold and indifferent. Without any trace of politeness, he sat down on the seat of honor that Nangonglu had previously sat on. In the past, before Nangonglu sat on this seat, he tried his best to decline but gave in several times. He was more or less modest and respectful. After sitting on the seat, he earnestly spoke for half an hour, saying that he was indebted to everyone for thinking highly of him and implore everyone to please support him, if he made a mistake, to please forgive him, with his spit flying whichever way. Meanwhile, Zhang Shi only said a single phrase in acceptance of this new position, of course. He actually said that the seat could only be his. Sect leader Zhang was really rich, truly arrogant, very bad-tempered, and quite thick-skinned. Xue Zhenyang suddenly remembered something. In a low voice, he muttered to Chu Wanning, he didn't come to the Lingshan Mountain conference more than once. Chu Wanning was not familiar with these political disputes. He frowned slightly and asked, "What do you mean?" "I mean, ever since Nangonglu became the first sect leader and the Rufeng sect was recognized as the first sect, Zhang Shi didn't come to any of the sect leaders' conferences." Chu Wanning looked at Zhang Shi for a while and said, "This person is proud and arrogant. It seems that he doesn't want to be inferior to a piece of trash." Xue Zhenyang felt wronged. "I don't want to be inferior to a piece of trash either." Chu Wanning smiled faintly. "The sect leader is tolerant. It doesn't count as being inferior." As they were talking, one of Gai Yuyesek's attendants suddenly came over. He stopped by their table, bowed and then presented a brocade box. Xue Zhenyang turned around and asked, "What's this?" The attendant shook his head and pointed to his ears and then to his mouth. He was actually a deaf and mute servant who couldn't speak or hear. Chu Wanning carefully observed him and found that this person was different from the other disciples of Gai Yuye sect. Around his neck was a silver serpent-shaped collar. Hanlin Divine Hand. The mute servant noticed that Chu Wanning was looking at his collar. Nodding repeatedly, he bowed and raised the box over his head to present it to Chu Wanning. There was also an exquisite serpent-shaped emblem on the top of the box. Xue Zhenyang looked at it and said to Chu Wanning, he should be a direct disciple of Han Lin Divine Hand. Saying so, he then looked towards Gaiyu Yesek direction. Sure enough, he saw the greatest Grand Master of the medicinal sect, Hua Binan, the Han Lin Divine Hand himself. Wearing a veil over his face, only his eyes could be seen, quietly staring in their direction. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 187. Shizun, you are my lantern. Shizun, you are my light. Seeing that Chu Wanning had turned his head, Hua Binan seemed to have a smile in his eyes. He stretched out a white and delicate hand from under the wide sleeve of his green silk robe and gently spread it forward, indicating that Chu Wanning should accept the brocade box in front of him. Chu Wanning nodded and said to the mute servant, "Many thanks." Seeing that he had accepted the box, the mute servant bowed low and returned to his master's side. Xue Zhenyang said in surprise, "Yu Heng, you know the Han Lin Divine Hand?" "Not really." Chu Wanning looked at the box in front of him. "If I knew him, I wouldn't have to spend 2,500,000 gold at the Xianyuan Pavilion to buy his taper-scented dew." "Then why did he give you this?" "I don't know either." Chu Wanning said, "Let's open it and take a look." The brocade box was opened. Inside, there were 5 bottles of taper-scented dew and a letter. Chu Wanning opened the letter and read it. The contents of the letter were quite simple. It said that he knew that Grand Master Chu had spent a huge amount to buy the dew at the Xianyuan Pavilion and felt that the taper-scented dew was not worth the price he paid. He had always wanted to offer 5 more bottles but could never find the opportunity to meet Grand Master Chu. Now that he had a good chance during this conference at Lingshan Mountain, he hoped that Chu Wanning would accept it. Xue Zhenyang immediately said, "I think he wants to make friends with you." If he did not accept this kind of gift, it would be a slap to the other party's face. Chu Wanning thanked Hua Binan from afar, but handed the brocade box to Xue Zhenyang. Xue Zhenyang said happily, "You're giving this to me?" "No, please hand it over to Elder Tanlang." Chu Wanning said, "I always felt that this Hua Binan was a bit strange. Every year, the Xianyuan Pavilion auctioned off so many expensive medicines for him, but their prices were all inflated. Could it be that he would compensate their buyer just like this?" Xue Zhenyang muttered, "I don't think it's strange. Those medicines are highly priced after all. Though it was the first I've heard of the medicine as expensive as the one you got." Chu Wanning's face showed a bit of anger. If it was needed, what's so outrageous about it? Anyway, give these 5 bottles to Tanlang. I think that there shouldn't be any poison here, but it wouldn't be a waste to let Tanlang learn how to concoct the taper-scented dew. You don't need. Speaking of which, it was strange that those absurd yet incomparably realistic dreams were becoming fewer and fewer recently. Aside from the few days he spent when they escaped the chaos at Rufeng sect, the rest of his dreams the nights afterwards were all good. Drinking more of the taper-scented dew would be a waste. Chu Wanning felt that there was no need for him to keep such a good medicine to himself. He stayed in Lingshan Mountain for about 3 days. When he returned to Shisheng Peak, he found out that Mo Ran had went down from the mountain. Shuemeng said, "He went to exterminate monsters." A thin line of frown appeared on Chu Wanning's forehead. "Another monster? It's the 19th this month. A lot of them are monster that had escaped from the Golden Drum Pagoda of the Rufeng sect." Shuemeng sighed. "We caught a lot of them and locked them up in our own sky-reaching pagoda. However, Shisheng Peak's sky-reaching pagoda is not like the Golden Drum Pagoda. It's smaller. Also, the spirit stones and talismans embedded in it aren't as powerful as those in Rufeng sect. If this continues, I'm afraid the sky-reaching pagoda won't be able to contain them all." Xue Zhenyang said, "The next time that Li Wuxin came back, let him take some to Baitan Manor and suppress it in their Holy Spirit Pagoda." Shuemeng smiled, "That's a good idea." Xue Zhenyang added, "Gaiyu Yesect can get some too." I heard that their star-plucking tower is bigger than the Golden Drum Pagoda of the Rufeng sect. This time, Xuemeng wasn't willing. He raised his dark eyebrows and said angrily, "No. What's wrong? I don't like that dog Zhang. He's very annoying. Even if the Sky Pagoda explodes, I won't be willing to give him the demons caught by my sect." Chu Wanning shook his head. He didn't want to listen to the father and son bickering anymore, so he left first. He returned to the Red Lotus Pavilion to sleep. Sure enough, he had a good night's sleep without any of the old dreams to disturb him. When he woke up, the setting sun was already as red as blood. The color of night filled most of the sky, and only a trace of red remained on the horizon. At this time, there was no more food in the Menpo hall, but he was feeling little hungry. He tidied up his clothes and pushed open the door, preparing to walk around Vuchame town and have something to eat at the town. On his way out, he happened to come across Mo Ran, who were returning from exterminating demons. He was walking on the long limestone steps that led to the Red Lotus Pavilion. When he saw him, Mo Ran smiled. "Shizun, I heard from uncle that you were sleeping, so I wanted to wake you up." "What's the matter?" "Nothing," he said, "I just wanted to find you so we can take a walk together." It was really a coincidence. Chu Wanning felt a little happy because of the happenstance between them. When a person is in love, such amiable coincidences were enough to lift one's mood. "Where are we going?" they both asked at the same time. Chu Wanning was taken aback as Mo Ran stared blankly for a moment. "It's up to you." Again, they said at the same time. Chu Wanning's 10 fingers clenched in his sleeves, sweat was seeping through the gaps between his fingers. His eyes were dark and warm, but he looked at Mo Ran calmly and steadily. Mo Ran couldn't help but grin. Anywhere is good. Chu Wanning was actually very happy, but being indifferent was how he was used to. Even in the face of such happiness, which was as rich as the red hue of crimson hatang. He said, "Then let's go. We'll go take a look around town and dine there." He didn't even ask Mo Ran how he was doing or how the demon slaying went. Now that they were connected by fate and had feelings for each other, their understanding of each had become implicit. When he stood outside the bamboo door and saw Mo Ran's black clothes fluttering in the wind, the dark golden curling grass edge rippling in the night light, he understood that everything was fine. There was no need to say anything more. Together, they went to Vuchame town. These past few years, Vuchame town had been getting better and better. It had expanded from the original 3-way street into the current 5-way street, which was almost a full circle more than the previous 3-way street. When I first arrived at Shisheng Peak, every household doors would be already closed before nightfall. Outside the courtyard, there were incense burners, on the door hung the Bagua mirror, and under the eaves hung the soul-calming bell. Chu Wanning looked at the people coming and going in front of him and the scene of the early evening lights. He said, "Now, except for the name of this town that hasn't changed, I almost can't recognize the rest." Mo Ran laughed and said, "With Shisheng Peak here, it will only get better in the future." The two walked along the newly paved bluestone main street of the town. Along the way, there were people blowing candy, people playing shadow puppets, stalls selling snacks and barbecued food, and people eating from gudong pots. There was a dazzling array of things, and it was bustling with noise and excitement. Rows of lanterns hung on the street, illuminating the lively night market. When Mo Ran saw the gudong pot stall, he remembered that himself, Xuemeng and Xiaosini had eaten there together before. He smiled and pulled Chu Wanning, "Shizun, let's dine here. This place has your favorite soy milk." They sat down on the small bamboo chairs that made creaking sounds. The weather was very cold, but the cook in charge of the dishes was feeling extremely hot. He was shirtless, and while wiping his sweat, he moved over and asked, "Cultivation masters, what do you want?" Chu Wanning said, "Mandarin duck pot." Mo Ran said, "Mushroom clear soup." "Don't you want to eat spicy food?" Mo Ran lowered his eyes and smiled. His voice was gentle and low, I want to quit eating spicy food. Chu Wanning was stunned for a moment. He vaguely understood why Mo Ran suddenly didn't want to eat spicy food anymore. He felt as if there's a fish swimming in the lake and bubbling in the pool of his heart, causing the water to ripple slightly. You don't have to quit. Mo Ran said, no, I wanted to. I like to quit. I want to. He looked at Chu Wanning. His thick eyelashes fluttered and the tips of ears turned reddish. Then he smiled. He didn't continue saying, I want to be like you. Mo Ran wanted their pair of chopsticks to dip into the same bubbling pot instead of the separated red and white soup. Mo Ran ordered some stir-fried dishes, but unfortunately, the small stall didn't make exquisite desserts. So he asked for 3 large porcelain pot of soy milk instead. He then sat down to wait for the dishes to be served. There were people eating all around, men and women, old and young, with black hair and white frost. The steam from the soup pot rose up, flames rising on the wok. There were shouting and playing finger-guessing games, talking and laughing, and selfish desires, all gathered into the sea of boiling smoke amidst the fragrance of the dishes and the warmth of wine. The human world was so ordinary and the mortal realm was so lively. Before Mo Ran turned 15, starving was a norm, as he didn't have the means to have these good food and wine. After becoming Taxian Jun, he was above everyone else. However, he could never find true peace. Now he had both of them. Suddenly, a tongue of fire rose. It turned out that the cook put the food in the wok. The fire rolled up from the big wok and reflected a layer of fine copper oil on the shirtless man's body. Then oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar were added one after another. The strong muscles on the cook's arms trembled. A plate of stir-fried dish was ready in an instant. It was hot and immediately served to the table. Oil burst double crisp. The waiter shouted. In the previous life, Taxian Jun remained displeased no matter how exquisite the delicacies that was brought in front of him. Now for some reason, when he heard this oil burst double crisp dish, he laughed out loud. His slender fingers overlapped and touched his smooth chin. A pair of long and thick eyelashes moved slightly. At this moment, the brilliance of the 5 lakes and the 4 seas gathered on those 2 black curtains, dyeing the darkness very brightly. Chu Wanning asked, "What are you laughing about?" "I don't know, I'm just very happy." Chu Wanning stopped talking. The charming smile of the man in front of him made his heart felt bright and cheerful. After eating, they looked up at the sky. It seemed like it was going to rain, but the people around didn't seem to care. They were still normally enjoying this brilliant night. They walked past a lantern shop. Mo Ran suddenly stopped and stood to look at it. Chu Wanning followed his gaze. It turned out that the old craftsman was diligently making a pagoda lantern. There was another very similar one that had already been made. There was a support at the bottom, it was a river lantern. "Uncle, can I trouble you to bring me this pagoda lantern?" He didn't ask for the price, nor did he ask if Mo Ran liked it. Chu Wanning walked over and handed the golden leaf to the old man who was busy making another lantern. Then he casually handed the river lantern to his disciple who was standing behind him. "Take it." Mo Ran was surprised and happy at the same time. He was even a little confused as he asked, "Is this for me?" Chu Wanning didn't say anything. He carried the half jar of wine that he hadn't finished during dinner and looked left and right. His gaze fell on the small river in the distance and walked in that direction. The light of the lantern flickered and then brightened again. The lantern was resplendent, winning over the solemnity of the pagoda. Mo Ran held the river lantern and muttered, "Since I was young, I've always wanted a pagoda lantern, but I didn't have the money to buy one." Chu Wanning looked at him lightly, "You were very poor." Mo Ran smiled. The river flowed quietly and slowly. Chu Wanning didn't want to go down the stone steps. He was feeling lazy, so he just leisurely crossed his arms and leaned against the bridge. The white-clothed cultivator leaned against the black pillar of the bridge, holding a wine jar with a bright red tassel. He raised his head and drank a mouthful from it. Then he slightly turned his face. The dim light of the red lantern shone on his delicate face. His expression was indifferent, but there was an obvious warmth in his eyes. He looked at the happy man holding the lantern by the river bank, his hands and feet seemingly clumsy. Idiot, what's so fun about this? However, his eyes were still unblinking as he watched Mo Ran walk to the river bank. He talked with the pagoda lantern for a long time. Finally, he bent down and gently placed it on the surface of the river. A streak of golden red reflected in the sparkling water. Mo Ran paddled the surface of the water twice, sending the pagoda lantern away. That day, Mo Ran stood by the dark river bank for a long time. It was not a festival. Other than him, no one else put a lantern on the river. Only that tiny pagoda lantern emitted a weak but stubborn radiance. It traveled far and wide in the boundless night and cold water before turning into a trembling and bleak spark. Finally, it was swallowed up by the darkness and disappeared without a trace. Mo Ran stood there silently. No one knew what he was thinking. He watched until the end. Until there was no more light that could be seen on the surface of the river. And then it rained. A thunderstorm fell. The raindrops hit the duckweed and knocked on the white walls. Everyone laughed and exclaimed as they scattered. It was rare to see such a sudden downpour in winter. The stalls and peddlers scrambled to cover their pots and pans, tools, and utensils. They pushed their small carts and hurriedly fled in all directions to hide from the heavy rain. Chu Wanning was also a little stupefied. Although the Jingj was not far away, winter is not over yet. This rain was too heavy. Note, Jingj means the awakening of hibernating insects. Traditional Chinese folklore says that during Jingj, thunderstorms will wake up the hibernating insects, which implies that the weather is getting warmer. He stood under the covered bridge. The rain and wind only wet the corner of his clothes a little. Mo Ran hurriedly ran up from the river bank. His clothes got wet along with his face, which made his eyes look very dark. He looked at Chu Wanning with a bit of gentleness but also with a hint of embarrassment as he smiled. Cast a spell and dry yourself. All right. Such heavy rain would not hinder cultivators from going out, especially grandmasters like Mo Ran and Chu Wanning. With a small barrier, they could walk back to Shisheng Peak with no issues at all. However, neither of them cast a barrier. Instead, they stood side by side under the covered bridge, waiting for the rain to stop. After waiting for a long time, the rain still showed no signs of slowing down. Mist started to surround them amidst the torrential downpour. The lively night market disappeared in an instant. It was like a watercolor diluted by the cold rain, a painting soaked in ink. Mo Ran said, "This rain doesn't seem to be stopping." Chu Wanning said lightly, "It's so out of season. This rain seems to be sick." Mo Ran laughed out loud. After laughing for a while, he turned to Chu Wanning and said, "What do we do? We can't go back." Chu Wanning knew that he should respond to him with, "Aren't you a cultivator?" Or, "Don't you know how to cast a barrier?" Or, "Why can't we go back?" However, he remained silent. For some reason, he did not say anything or respond in any way. He only raised his head and looked at the boundless rainy night. His palms were slightly warm, sweat gathered within his curled fingers. Just as he was thinking about how to answer, his hands were gripped by Mo Ran. Whether it was his slight trembling, his slight heat or his sweat, they all fell into Mo Ran's hands. Mo Ran looked at him. After a while, the jut of his throat moved. "Shizun, I want to." The words were at the tip of his tongue, but he could not say them. However, his heart was palpitating with numbness and he couldn't swallow the words down. In the end, his black eyes got warm and moist. He then spoke with an intense and reserved tone which was obscure yet seductive as he said in a low voice, "I mean, The rain is too heavy. We can't go back to the sect tonight. It's such a long journey. You'll catch a cold. Chu Wanning did not react. He was momentarily stunned until he got his wit back and said, I'm not cold. Then are you warm? I'm not warm either. Mo Ran's breath was scorching. His chest rose and fell. Without waiting for Chu Wanning to answer, he held his hand and pressed it against his throbbing heart. He said in a low voice, I feel hot. The rain hit the duckweed. Chu Wanning saw fire in his eyes. He saw lava and the midsummer in them. This young man was so anxious that he was almost pitiful, but also very cute. His voice was as little hoarse as he said, let's go to the nearest inn, all right? Let's go now. End chapter.